Hi, my name is Beth Cossin, and I'm the director of the Wesleyan Justice Network for the Wesleyan Church. And I just wanted to share with you a little bit today about some of my leadership experience and perspective on leadership being at this point in my journey. I've kind of had a varied career to get to this point. After I went to college at Wheaton College, I was in the United States Army serving as a captain in the Military Intelligence Corps. From there, I went on to have a variety of ministry positions. I've served as a co-youth pastor with my husband and different pastoral roles. Just kind of a wide variety of experiences in the local church. I've had the opportunity to serve on boards, church boards, and nonprofit boards as well in a variety of positions. So my leadership experience is it's all over the map. Some of those experiences have been great incubators for what to do, and others have been incubators more around what not to do. But I think as a woman in leadership, there's a couple of just some key things culturally and socially that I've kind of come to, and just kind of want to talk a little bit about those. The first one is, the military was a great opportunity as a woman to sort of have a pretty level playing field. The way things are set up, regardless of your ethnicity and your gender, there really is the opportunity to develop as a leader, to receive the same compensation as someone else in your rank and position. And so I really found that to be a really great place to grow in my leadership horsepower. My first job as a platoon leader, they were a group of all men who had come back from Desert Storm, and I walked into that company, and I was the only woman in that company at that time, and was definitely the newbie and being checked out for what did I bring to the table as a leader, and felt the weight of that. One of the things for me that I found was important was to always be competent in my job and in my role. And so physical fitness was an area that I was pretty developed in. And so one of the things I did with my soldiers was we would go for runs, and I would not only hang with them, but run harder and farther and oftentimes faster than a lot of them, and began to earn their respect probably first in the physical fitness arena, and then was able to earn credibility in other areas as my time with them went on. I think as a woman, it's really important to be competent, and maybe even more important for a woman in a leadership role to know your job inside and out, to show up early and stay late, and to just to be able to excel at what you're doing, so that there isn't ever a reason for people to think that because you're a woman you can't do your job, and that might not be fair that that's the weight of it, but I have found that being competent in what I'm doing has definitely opened doors for me. I think another element of that was kind of it was good for me to kind of work through this in the military, was learning how to function as a minority in a setting where I would always be the minority. And so the military is predominantly male, and so that's the majority culture. Everything is very male, and so it really is important as a woman to figure out, like if you're a woman in ministry, the culture, the leadership culture around that is very male. And so how do you as a woman navigate that and still do that in a way that is female and true to who you are? I think sometimes as women, we, if we lead strongly, or we are making a bold decision, we can be perceived to be wenchy, where a man doing that same thing would just be perceived to be strong and courageous. And that's a tension that we have to balance. But I think it's really important for women to lead in a way that is authentic and true to who you are, but to do it in a way where you don't have a chip on your shoulder in that arena. Sometimes women, they've been kind of beaten down by the process of developing as a leader, and so they can come into a setting that's largely male, and if they do that with a chip on their shoulder, it becomes very difficult for that to be a healthy dynamic for anyone. And so I feel like one of the things that's allowed me to sit very often, being the only woman in a room, is to be able to do it in a way that's authentic to who I am, but to do that without a chip on my shoulder or resenting the fact that I'm the only woman in the room, and just try to look at it as an opportunity to hopefully open that door a little wider so that next time maybe I'm not the only woman. Maybe there's another woman or 3 or 4 other women, and we start to move that needle. I think the other area that's been challenging culturally and socially when it comes to leadership as a woman is I've really run into the obstacle of compensation. That very often in the military, that was probably one of the only times I was compensated the same as a male doing the same job. There was one other time in ministry where a man left a job in ministry, and I did that role for a year, and I was compensated the same as him, minus some of his benefits. And then when I went on to another role, again, it seemed like there was a sliding scale that a man has to provide for a family, but a woman who's married doesn't have that same burden, and so this is the level of compensation, which always seems to be lower than a man's. At least in my case, that's what I've experienced. And so I think compensation is really an important thing to look at when you bring credentials and experience to the table that are the same as a man. I think that's something we need to continue to elevate in the conversation around men and women and opportunities for leadership and advancement in their roles. I think one of the things that kind of plays into the conversation around compensation is women, our lives are kind of seasonal often. And so there was a period of time for me where I, had one of my sons, and then I went back in the Army for a while, and then I got out and I had a period of time with him. Then I went back to work. Then I had another son. So I had two boys. And then I was working part-time. And so there's certainly been this seasonal element to my leadership development. And I think what I've just tried to look at is no matter what season of life I'm in, it's really important for me as a leader to be stewarding that opportunity for investment in all the platforms that I have the opportunity to stand on, or in all the people that I have the opportunity to invest in. Leadership isn't about position or title. It's really about our influence, and how are we stewarding that influence as we invest in the next generation, as we invest in up and coming leaders around us. If we have a voice that's strong in certain circles, how are we willing to use that voice where it might not even benefit us, but it might be opening a door for someone else whose voice won't be heard quite yet because they don't have the credibility that we do. It's certainly been a challenging journey. It's been an interesting journey. It's been a surprising journey. But I really do believe that God is continuing to call women to step into those spaces that might be uncomfortable, that might be stretching, that might be something that we weren't even raised to think was possible. But God is calling men and women to both reflect His image. And as we do that, I think we'll increasingly see opportunities for men and women to lead in new ways. I think our voice is important in conversations. I think when there are conversations that are only male, it's missing something important. And I think it's the same thing when our conversations are only female, that we need each other to arrive at the best solutions, that we need each other to be the most creative, that we need each other to leverage all of our influence for the kingdom, because the kingdom needs all of us. It's not a half gendered approach, nor is it needs all of us in a diverse way, whether we're talking about ethnicity or culture or gender. It's just this opportunity that we have right now to really build a kingdom that is more like what heaven will be. And I think in heaven, male voices and female voices will be equally heard and represented, and we should be getting glimpses of that here. So if that's any encouragement to you, I hope that it is, as you continue to develop Find people who are doing it well, men and women. They don't have to be in the same occupation that you are for you to spend time with them. Ask good questions. That's one of the things, I'm always asking questions, and I'm really committed to just learning and growing and being stretched, and I don't ever want to arrive somewhere. And I think as a leader, that's super important to our development and our process of growth. So hope you have a great continued opportunity to interact as you talk about leadership and what God is really calling you to and preparing you for.